Hi YouTube, I've got another video for you. In this video I want to talk about various things you can do about your emotions, especially when they're overwhelming or unpleasant. I want to talk about validating your emotions, not avoiding your emotions, increasing positive emotions, and also resisting urges that fuel emotions. These are all topics in Chapter 7 of the book, The Dialectical Behavior Skills Workbook for Bipolar Disorder, which I'm working on this week with my therapist. So this video is kind of a review for me and a nice way of getting feedback before I go back and see my therapist and talk about this stuff. It's also making me do my homework, so that's good. So the first thing I want to talk about is validation. We tend to invalidate our emotions. For example, we'll say things to ourselves like, I shouldn't feel sad right now, or I have no right to feel angry right now. And what happens when we make these judgments is that we end up generating secondary emotions like guilt and anger. Like getting angry at myself for getting sad and feeling guilty toward myself for feeling angry. This is clearly not an ideal situation. Invalidating your emotions is not the best way to go. Instead, validating your emotions has a much better result. Instead of thinking, I shouldn't feel sad right now, you can just think, I feel sad right now. Just notice and acknowledge your emotion. Give yourself permission to feel the way you feel. You can also notice reasons why you might feel that emotion, like, I feel anxious because anxiety is a natural feeling to feel in stressful situations. That is a validating thought. Another validating thought would be, there's nothing wrong with me for feeling sad. Or, anger exists for a reason and I have every right to feel it. It's comforting to feel like you're justified in feeling the way you feel. And you should feel justified. You can't help but feel the way you're already feeling, so you might as well validate your feelings rather than invalidate them. Sometimes, instead of either validating or invalidating our emotions, we try to avoid certain emotions altogether. This is not a good idea. There's a helpful acronym to use when you find yourself avoiding emotions so you can learn to truly experience and then validate your emotions instead. The acronym is WATCH, W-A-T-C-H. The W stands for watch your emotions. Mentally note your experience of each emotion and how it feels physically, thoughts that accompany it, and so on. A is for avoid. Avoid acting immediately. Remember, it's just an emotion, it's not a fact. It doesn't require you to do anything about it. T is for think. Think of your emotion as a wave. Remember that it will go away on its own as long as you don't try to push it away. C is for choose. Choose to let yourself experience the emotion. Remind yourself that it's in your best interest and it will help you work towards your long-term goals to not avoid the emotion. H is for helpers. Remember that emotions are helpers. They all serve a purpose and they're here to tell you something important. So those are some ways to stop avoiding negative emotions. Now what are some ways to increase positive emotions? Well, these are pretty obvious when you're not depressed, but when you are, you really need some help coming up with pleasurable activities to increase positive emotions. Here are a few examples of things that can increase positive emotions. Have lunch with a friend, sit in the sun, playing with your cat or dog, going to the park, watching a funny movie or TV show, going for a walk or hike, cooking, spending time with loved ones, doing something artistic, taking a bath, listening to an audiobook or listening to music, or calling a friend. There are tons and tons and tons of other things you could do to increase positive emotions, and it would be a good idea to make a list of things you find pleasurable that you can look at when you're depressed. If you are depressed, try and do at least one pleasurable activity a day. It will help ease the pain of depression, if only a little, but every little bit counts. Another thing you can do about your emotions is to bring this back to this title, is to resist the urges that often come along with your emotions. Emotions usually do have urges attached to them. For example, anger gives you the urge to attack, either physically or verbally. Anxiety gives you the urge to avoid whatever's making you anxious. In both these examples, the thing the emotion gives you the urge to do is not really a good thing, at least most of the time. Acting on your urge would not necessarily be in your best interest. Avoiding situations that cause you anxiety will cause you more anxiety in the long run, And attacking someone when you're angry will just result in you getting in trouble or getting attacked back. So what can you do instead of acting on the urges that come with your emotions? Well, my DBT workbook talks about acting opposite to your urge. This means exactly what it sounds like it means. So in the case of anxiety, instead of avoiding the source of your anxiety, say going out into public, you do the opposite and go ahead and go out in public. Or in the anger case, instead of lashing out verbally or physically, you calmly talk to the person you're upset with, or leave and come back and talk when you're more calm. This is a really difficult skill to master, but we do it more than we might think, and we should really give ourselves credit for it. For instance, I'm anxious about going to work every day, but I go anyway and act the opposite to my urge to avoid work. People with anxiety problems have small victories like this all the time. Same with people with anger problems. Every time you leave the room, instead of yelling and throwing things, you're acting the opposite to your urge, and that's a really good and healthy skill. And every time a depressed person tries some potentially pleasurable activity, they're acting against the urge to stagnate and isolate and do nothing. Anyhow, I think this video is long enough, so I'll cut it short. I hope I've been able to explain some helpful ideas about emotions from my DBT workbook. Let me know if you have any questions, and again, I'm trying to put together a Q&A video pretty soon, and I need some questions to answer, so please ask me anything. It could be about me personally, or advice for yourself, or something about DBT, or about mental illness in general, or about bipolar specifically. Really, it could be anything, so ask away. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to your comments.